And you know as well as I do how frustrating it is when your Instagram engagement drops and you don't know why. Well, maybe it's not actually your fault. That doesn't mean that you can't do something about it and you can react, but there are many reasons that are out of your control that your engagement can drop, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Okay, so a quick analogy. What if I started complaining that I can't control the weather? The weather is completely out of my control. What if I started complaining that, it's raining today? It's out of my control, however, I can choose how I deal with the weather. If it's raining, I can wear a coat. If it's too hot, I can wear less clothes. So what I'm saying is that just because something is out of your control, that doesn't mean that you can't react and do something about it. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is the reduction of users on the platform. And now this is a bit of a funny one because it's highly likely that the number of active users on Instagram fluctuates a lot, but who those individuals are probably fluctuates even more. That will make sense in a minute. Particularly at the moment when the platform is making sweeping changes and making it very difficult for anyone who creates sort of still image-based content to see anything near what they're used to. So when you're looking at your analytics, you need to stop looking at it as numbers and start looking at it as people, because when you do that, it's plain to see that if there are less people within your niche, then that will result in less people engaging with your content. And while Instagram will probably never publish up-to-date numbers, I wouldn't be surprised if, the numbers right now are not what they used to be. But one thing I think we can be certain of is that the people who are on the platform right now is made up of active users and new people, and some of the people who used to be on the platform are no longer there, and some of those people are your followers. So what I'm saying is that a lot of your followers will be inactive users, and there's nothing that you can do about that. The good thing is there are plenty of active users on the platform. I wouldn't be surprised if the platform grows next year. So while your followers may not be active, you can adjust your activity to sort of engaging with new people rather than focusing your energy on your sort of account. If you're interested in a video about that, let me know in the comments because I've got an idea for one. But essentially what I'm saying is, imagine you're a business, rather than doing lots of customer service, maybe do a bit more outreach and sort of trying to get new clients, if that makes sense. Now the next one is sort of subject popularity. This is an interesting one. This could be a potential dip in engagement, or you could see it as an opportunity to kind of catch a wave. Here's an example, okay? Anyone who was creating kind of wild camping content in the summer of 2020 probably saw a disproportionate boom in the interest in the content that they were creating. And you're probably not seeing that right now in the winter of 2021. In summer 2020, people couldn't travel to other countries, and we saw a huge sort of boost in the amount of people talking about wild camping, hiking, and the whole sort of outdoor niche. Probably saw this across Instagram and YouTube. But does this mean that anyone creating content within that subject right now is doing a worse job? Of course it doesn't mean that. What it means is that there are less people interested in it because it is not something that people are actively going to do. Now, you can take this extreme example and think about how that could be affecting what you do. And it may not be a factor in what you do, but anyone who is in the fitness niche, for example, is about to see a bit of a boom when we all realize that we've just eaten and drunk far too much for all of December. So it's probably time to create some useful content around that subject if fitness and just general well-being is something that you do. This is a really good example of how that interest fluctuates and how you don't really have any control of it, but you can predict it, and you can say to yourself, okay, look, I might create outdoor content, but people just aren't interested in the outdoors right now, so I'm not going to feel bad if my engagement has dropped by half. The next one is really interesting, but before we jump into it, I would really appreciate it if you could just hit that like button. Don't even think about it, helps me out. Just hit it and we'll move on. Now the next one is quite topical. This is content-based kind of algorithm changes. Now, as I said, this is very topical. Things change, platforms change, and trends kind of move on. Sometimes it's not fair for entire groups of people who kind of get caught up and disregarded. Artists, photographers, I'm talking to you. Now, here's an example, okay? Instagram's purpose is to keep people on the platform and seamlessly show them ads to keep the money coming in. We all know this. The best way to do this is to keep people engaged, or even better, entertained, give them a positive experience. So let's take something like comedy as a potent example of this, okay? Comedy keeps people entertained. What's funnier, okay, a picture of someone slipping on a banana or a video of someone slipping on a banana? Now there's obviously some, discrepancy there, but for the most part, the video will be funnier. The video will keep people entertained for longer. Now, I think a much more potent example of this, let's say you want to share a moment of your kids with your grandparents opening Christmas presents. Do you send them a photo of them opening the presents, or do you send them a video with all of the reaction and them opening the presents? I think we can all agree that the video in that case is much better than the photo. So I can kind of understand why in Instagram's view, video is a superior form of content than still images. Now that camera phones are better at producing video, phone signal is faster at downloading that signal, and server storage is cheaper and capable of storing more of that video, I can completely understand why that transition is happening. However, meanwhile, us artists, creatives, photographers are all here saying, but wait, this doesn't apply to our art. Capturing that single moment is better than the video of that moment because we're photographers, we're artists, whatever, and so I do think we're kind of getting unfairly caught up in this world where video is the superior content type. Now the real solution here is acceptance and possibly putting your photos, your artwork somewhere else, and there is a video coming soon on that, so hopefully you'll find that one useful. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe. So the next point is oversaturation, and this one is not given enough respect at all, okay? So let's say that you are the first person on the planet and the only person ever to have a drone. All you'd need to do is fly up, take a few sort of top-down photos like these ones of mine, and you would blow people's minds. People have never seen anything like this before. They would be sending signals to Instagram, telling Instagram to recommend these images to new people whose minds will be equally blown, and your image goes viral, your sort of following explodes, and you can simply rinse and repeat to a certain extent. Fast forward a few years and everyone has a drone, and everyone has seen your image, so they go out and sort of take the same kind of image in a new location. It's pretty cool and people are into it, but gradually over time, people get used to it. Then someone goes and takes the exact image that you took all those years ago and doesn't get the same amount of attention. Now the image is kind of critically identical, but the impact on the algorithm and therefore its reach on the platform is completely different because people are now familiar with this type of thing. Now if you apply this in varying degrees across all niches and content types, it kind of seems simple and easy to understand why this is happening. There are kind of two solutions here. The first is to accept that what you're doing isn't completely original and to understand why people aren't completely blown away by it. And the second would be to be completely original, which in many, many niches is very, very difficult. But remember, every day someone is creating something that has never been done before. It's not easy, but it is not impossible. So I think the most important takeaway here is there are like, what, 8 billion people on this planet? It's very difficult to be original. Still enjoy the work that you're doing, even if someone has done it before you. It's still something that feels good when you capture something that looks amazing, even if it's been done hundreds of times before. And that kind of similarly leads us on to the next one, which is kind of familiarity, okay? Don't underestimate the power of curiosity. Not knowing what's going to happen is quite compelling. And people often ask me why their Instagram Reels views kind of stopped coming. This applies to YouTube as well to a certain extent, but let me explain what I mean by this. I might get the question like, hey bro, it often starts like that. I used to get, X number of views on my Reels and now I get way less. The content is the same, but the views don't happen. And the key was in the question there, the content is the same. People imagine that everyone is watching their content thinking, wow, this is so entertaining, so inspiring, when in actuality, most of these views are simply people thinking, okay, so what's about to happen? Something's about to happen. Oh, okay, that happened. Okay, cool. So when your followers are able to predict what's about to happen, that chops a huge amount of people out of your kind of viewership. This happens when people are seeing the same sort of thing and they kind of know where it's going to go and they will probably swipe. They start to recognize and associate an intro with the last content that they watched and be like, oh, okay, I get what's going to happen, it's cool, I don't need to see this. And they will swipe, and that will send all those signals to the algorithm to say, stop sharing this video. Now you have to consider that almost all short form video is based around revealing something, and that can get tiring. So if your content is about revealing something and it worked once, it worked twice, maybe it won't work 3 times. And if it diminishes over time, that's natural. And the solution here is just to try and keep things diverse. Not everything needs to be different, but just create a few different content types and kind of rotate them, unless you have an absolutely winning formula, which is, if you go to TikTok, that's the sort of thing that really makes TikTok stars, you know, they've nailed that, they've found a winning formula and they do kind of repeat that. But for the average person, your engagement will drop if you keep sort of rotating the same idea over and over again, because you'll just gradually lose people over time who have learned to predict what your content's going to do. Now, the next drop in engagement that is kind of out of your control is that you're growing. You know, as an account grows, it accumulates more bots, more ghost followers, and it kind of takes more effort to move the needle. 50 likes when you're starting out with 100 followers is great, and it doesn't sort of take much hashtag exposure to achieve those 50 likes. But as you grow, that exposure in the hashtags doesn't necessarily grow with you. So, you know, another effect at play here is as you grow, the less supportive your followers can be. In the beginning, they might be almost giving you kind of charity like, saying, hey, I love what you're doing, you're starting something brilliant and I'm going to support it. Whereas over time, that probably diminishes, and to a certain extent, actually, people probably might get jealous of your growth and stop kind of supporting you on purpose. Another side of that is that when I see a small account post something great, I'm almost certainly going to let them know what I think in the comments. But when an account is big and successful, I kind of expect great work, so I'm less likely to be as vocal about it. So while I'm equally respectful and appreciative of their work, I'm simply less likely to express it in a way that Instagram kind of cares about. I think a lot of people are like this, so as your account grows, don't expect to retain a kind of incredible engagement rate. The solution here is to kind of manage your own expectation and remember how many people 100 people really is. You know, 100 likes is 100 people, and they're letting you know that they appreciate your work. That's a good thing. The biggest takeaway from this video is that when your engagement drops, it's highly likely that you didn't do anything wrong. You can react to it, you can do something to kind of bring it back, and you can react and kind of navigate this changing platform. Instagram is supposed to be a place where we can all feel good about the content that we're sharing and feel good about the reaction that we're getting to it. If it doesn't feel good, you need to start managing the reasons for that, and hopefully this video helped with it. If it did, let me know in the comments, and if you are one of my subscribers, I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Oh, by the way, if anyone was on my Instagram and I was talking about how I cut my hand slipping on a hike, that's what happened. Yeah, it's fine, just hurt a lot when I did it and I smashed up my lens. Anyway, take care.